Yeah. So, as I said some time back, liver manufactures cholesterol. It manufactures cholesterol from two radicals. One radical is glucose. Glucose manufactured is necessary to prepare cholesterol in the liver. And the other radical is a radical called acetate, which is during the development of all kinds of foods, acetate is produced, but mainly that of fats. So fats and sugar contribute to production of cholesterol in our body. Now we would say sugar is a very important, easy source of energy to human body because it does not require much digestion. The sugar that we buy in the market is called sucrose. This sucrose is made out of two different chemical compounds. Glucose and fructose are added together to form sucrose. And whenever we take anything that contains sugar, it will be promptly hydrolyzed into glucose and sucrose, and they will be, without further digestion, absorbed into the blood. They will go to the liver. And from there, glucose will go to different parts of the body, utilized, converted into energy. Every human organ needs energy, and brain in particular cannot utilize anything except glucose. So we need glucose for the effect of the brain functioning anyway. But supposing if we take more than what we need, then that glucose is converted, as I said, into cholesterol and also converted into a wide variety of fatty acids. And all those fats are stored in the body. Glucose cannot be stored. Total amount of glucose in the whole body is not more than half a kilo. In the entire, say, 70-80 kilos of the body weight, half a kilo is nothing. But fat can be stored any amount. So it is converted into fat and it is stored in the body and it can remain like that. Every single gram of sugar which is not utilized will be stored as fat. Now this fat, as I said, partly converted into cholesterol, and to take that cholesterol from the liver to the different tissues we need low density lipoprotein, and that low density lipoprotein, as it rises, more and more cholesterol in the blood, and that will cause deposition into the arteries, and therefore taking more sugar is not desirable. You should take just enough for your purpose. How much is just enough? Just enough so that your formula which we said just now does not exceed more than 28, preferably 24, 22nd ideal. Rest is also not desirable because if you are very lean, then the bony structure of your body will become osteoporotic, and a person who is grossly underweight will be very severely osteoporotic, and that's not desirable at all. They will have very quick fractures and all kinds of problems will come to them. But do we need to take sugar? All these cereals that we now consume, for example, rice, wheat, jawar, bajra, or whatever it is that they all contain between 62% to 68% of starch. And starch is nothing but glucose molecules attached to one after the other in a very large sequence. So whenever we eat any of these cereals, and our diet is 85% of the Indian population is purely vegetarian, and the vegetarian diet is mainly starch-based. You cannot eat vegetarian diet without starch. Unlike in the West, when people might eat a piece of meat with salad, no starch. That's all right. Whatever they want, they will get it in that. We can't do that. Even if there are people who eat non-vegetarian food in India, no one eats only meat. That is our profession. I have never known anyone doing that. They will eat as a 10%, 15% part of the whole meal. And the rest of the meal will be rotis and rice and everything else and spices, and so that we cannot do without the starch that goes with that. Starch means accumulation of glucose. So that glucose will be extra, that extra glucose will be stored as fat. And therefore, if we give up sugar totally, let us say a person says, I am not going to take a grain of sugar from now, nothing will happen. Because he'll get sugar in his cereals anyway. Or if he wishes to use a sweetener, there is no harm because there is no glucose in that. He can use an artificial sweetener, it's perfectly alright. And take all sorts of vegetables and salads and whatever the dals which are required. One major thing about vegetarian diet is that the protein content of all cereals, like as I said, rice or ghee or jawar or wheat or whatever, the protein content lacks in two very important amino acids, lysine and methionine. These are the two amino acids which are not there in starch that comes from, not starch, from the protein that comes from cereals. But dal can give us adequate amount of lysine. So if you mix a cereal with dal, at least one deficiency is made up. Milk can give you methionine. So supposing to begin with you have rice with dal and the end you meal with rice with curds or milk or buttermilk or whatever, then you have balanced the diet and then there is no problem. Our ancestors were so clever that everyone knows and we all know that milk is not a food derived from vegetarian source. So in theory it is a non-vegetarian source. But we have included conveniently into vegetarian source because it contains methionine and we need it. Methionine is needed because methionine is converted into an amino acid which is converted into insulin in the body. So for insulin to occur we need methionine and for methionine to occur we need to take milk. And if you say we are not going to have anything from animal source, how can we take milk? So we have conveniently included milk in that and we accept it. So okay, this is vegetarian. No problem whatsoever in that conveniently. We can do that. And otherwise you can take vegetables of all kinds and you can take fruits of all kinds and milk or for a person who is a strict vegetarian and does not eat eggs or any other non-vegetarian food at all, for him to get proper nourishment, he needs 350 milliliters of milk per day. Very few people do that. And therefore, in India, deficiency of milk in the diet is exceedingly common. Half the people can't afford it. So the question does not arise.
Is this one of the reasons that you are getting high incidence of diabetes?
Well, diabetes occurs because of lack of insulin. One of the reasons is that you have a need for insulin more by high starch and high carbohydrate diet. And on the other side, you take less and less milk. Part of the Indians don't take milk because they can't afford. You forget it because you can't do anything about it. But there are many who just don't like milk. They will say, no, I don't like the smell, I don't like the taste, I don't like this, I don't like that, so I don't like it. There are others who find digesting milk difficult because milk contains sugar or lactose, which 30% of Indians have a deficiency of lactase, which enzymes digest milk, so that only those they cannot. So that very few can take 350 milliliters of milk. And if you cannot take it, then the amount of vitamin B12 which we need is not enough. Vitamin B12 will become less and less and less. Now B12 is mainly needed by our brain and nervous system, but also needed for the blood to be formed. Of course, every cell of the body needs B12 for its function. And if there is a deficiency of B12, the person will get easily tired and can't remember, and suddenly will say, yes, I know this man, he is very well known to me, but I can't remember the name. And then after some time, suddenly the name will come, oh yes, his name is so-and-so. This means that the name is in his brain, but won't come out. All sorts of things like little tingling and numbness of his legs and little swelling on the feet and all. These are such common symptoms that it's difficult to say that they are because of B12 and B12 deficiency. Okay, if somebody has B12 deficiency, till about 15-20 years ago, B12 could not be administered as a tablet. It had to be given as an injection, which was a big nuisance. Now B12 tablets are freely available. But the problem with B12 is, B12 absorption is very tricky. If I take B12 by mouth, either in milk or meat or whatever that is, and the B12 goes into my stomach. Now if the B12 goes like that as a molecule further, it is destroyed by digestive juices of our small intestine. Therefore, the stomach lining manufactures a chemical called intrinsic factor. This intrinsic factor has petals. As soon as B12 molecule comes, it will close on it. Inside B12, outside the petals of intrinsic factor. Now the digestive juices cannot digest B12, and this whole thing will go down into the intestine, and in the last portion of the small intestine, the petals will open up. Amazing how these things happen in human body. And when it opens up, it gets absorbed. So for B12 to be absorbed, you need to have an intrinsic factor which must go down and get opened and going on. For intrinsic factor to be produced, the lining of the stomach has to be alright. And two things damage the lining of the intrinsic of the stomach very, very badly. One is smoking. A large number of people smoke, their stomach linings are already gone. But the second is strong tea. Now tea, if you boil in water and drink, then it contains theine, oxalic acid, tannic acid, and some other acids which destroy the lining of the stomach. And in India, wherever you go, you drink tea of that kind. You boil water, as the water is boiling, put tea leaves, close the thing, switch off the gas, allow it to sort of settle down, and all the concoction there, and then add milk, which is again a bad thing to do, and then add sugar, which is poisonous, and then keep on drinking that. That is how we all drink tea wherever we go. But the best way to drink tea is you take a kettle, put tea leaves in it, put boiling water, and immediately pour it. And you will find the tea which has a light greenish yellow fluorescence, slightly fluorescent color, and a flavor of that whatever tea that brand you have. You drink like that. That fluorescent color and the flavor is because of a substance called bioflavonoid. That's the substance. The bioflavonoid is a powerful antioxidant which works to protect our body against development of cancer and also development of heart disease. So it is useful to drink tea like this, just plain boiled water but no milk, and because as soon as you add milk, the bioflavonoid is destroyed. As soon as you add sugar, you are going to add to all the weight problems that a person has. So that without sugar, without milk, very light tea, keep on drinking 5-6 cups in a day, good for you. There is no alternative to B12. B12 is
Insulin, we take B12 shots.
If you cannot absorb it, how do you know? Supposing you take a tablet, take it every day for say 1 month, and you find that the B12 level in the blood does not rise. That means you are not absorbing it. That means the intrinsic factor is not being produced. Then giving any amount of B12 by mouth is of no use. Might as well take one injection once a month. As I said some time back, an oil structure which has many carbon atoms, and the carbon atom, at one end of the carbon atom, there is what is called as the methyl radical, CH3. And at the other end of the radical, of the entire chain, there is a radical which is CHH, carboxyl. Now, it's like a mal train, you know, at one end is the engine, at the other end there is a guard's train. From the guard's train, which is this oxalic acid radical, you start counting. 1, 2, 3, 4 like that. And you see which of these carbon atoms is unsaturated. That means it is all the 4 valences are not occupied. If the third carbon is not saturated, you call it omega 3. Omega is the last Greek word, like Z in the Roman one, in the that's omega. Beginning from alpha, it goes to omega. Omega is the last. So begin from the last, start counting. Omega 3 will be the third carbon from the last chain, which is unsaturated. You have omega 3, omega 6, omega 9, you can have many others, but as far as the human body is concerned, these 3 are important, and far more important are the omega 3 and omega 6. Omega 3 is there only in very few articles. For example, you have it in methi and mohari, and you can have a rajma, which is hardly ever consumed in Maharashtra, mostly consumed in Punjab. Then in all green leafy vegetables you have omega 3. Akhroad, that means walnut, that is omega 3. And fish, that's all. That completes the list. Nothing else has omega 3 fat. And therefore in an average vegetarian diet, omega 3 is very much less than what is desirable. How much is desirable? We will take about omega 6. There is a 6th carbon atom unsaturated. Now, omega 6 oils are, all other oils are omega 6 oils. Coconut oil, groundnut oil, teal oil, whatever oil you can say, name the oil and it is omega 6 oil. So, whatever oil that we normally consume, and not only that, but in all cereals there is oil which we don't see. That oil is also omega 6 oil. So we normally consume omega 6 far more than what we consume omega 3. The correct ratio should be 1:5. For every 1 gram of omega 3, it should be 5 grams of omega 6. That doesn't happen. If the ratio is 1:25, like when we take much more oil, like we would eat samosa or eat wafers or whatever, without fried in any other oil, then the ratio between omega 3 and omega 6 is disturbed in favor of omega 6. Then the first thing that will happen is that a person will start getting all kinds of allergies, repeated attacks of colds, conjunctivitis, itching here, itching there, all kinds of problems with allergy. Then you start getting joint pains. These joint pains will not be associated with swelling of the joint, but just joint pain, which will be there. And these omega 6 fats which are there, they also aggravate coronary artery disease. So that taking too much of those foods which are fried in all oils is undesirable. Now, sapola, which I am just telling you as a name because that is made out of a very commonly used oil, is one of those unsaturated fats. But it contains omega 3 to omega 6 ratio, which should have been 1:5. It has a ratio of 1:125. So that a person who is, there are many who tell me that we consume only sapola. Then I am sure you are surprised you have not had heart attack so far. So you should have had heart attack. Because sapola has an extremely disturbed ratio of omega 3 to omega 6. Much better to use, you will take 3 bottles. In one bottle you fill up ghee. Ghee has omega 9, neither omega 3 nor omega 6. Then you use safflower oil, which is this morisate, which has got only omega 3 fats. And then any other oil of this oil, because they all are omega 6. And see to it that at the end of the month, all the 3 bottles are equally consumed. Then you are right. You are safe. That's how it is.
How about olive oil?
Olive oil is a good source of omega 6, no doubt, but it has 2 limitations. Firstly, it is not produced in India, and secondly, it is very expensive. So, an average person finds it difficult to consume it. But it is undoubtedly Goose also omega-6.
6, not
Omega-6 only.
Omega-3, sorry.
Omega-3.
Omega-3, it has omega-3.
But they say you should not use that for frying because it's smoke.
You know, if you fry an oil, then the uppermost layer of that oil, which is very hot, all the heat comes low, warm one comes up. That comes in contact with the air and therefore it starts getting saturated. All the hydrogen in the air binds that uppermost layer. So that if you use an oil which is fried again and again, it loses all the advantage. And most of the times oils are used again and again.
Reused.
Reused.